Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the live stream for the project by Courtney Summers. Everyone will get to introduce themselves in just one second, but I just want to apologize in advance if there's any technical difficulties. I'm probably not going to display comments, but we'll still talk through everything. I'm on my iPad and it's hard to just navigate everything, so please bear with me. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about this book today. We'll keep it non-spoiler for a little bit, and then we'll launch into spoilers. I'm here, you're on the channel, and I guess we can go around and say what we rated the book as well. And I gave this one a 4.25 star rating.
Hi guys, my name is Jess. My channel is Books Past Bedtime. I really loved this book and I gave it a 4.5 star.
Hey everyone, my name's Katie from the channel Katie and Her Cats, and I gave this book 3.5 stars.
Okay, cool. Well, everyone's channel is linked down below, so definitely go check that out if you haven't yet. And also know in the chat what y'all rated it. I'm definitely very curious because I know that this one has been very polarizing. I've heard some very negative reviews for this book, so I'm really interested to hear everyone's opinion about it. Does anyone have any non-spoiler thoughts that they want to share before we launch into the spoilers? Maybe why you gave it the rating that you did.
Jess, you want to go?
Well, I know for me, I just overall really enjoyed the writing and I thought it was really chilling. And I definitely thought that it went really dark, which I appreciated. The only thing that I kind of wasn't sure if I loved was like the ending, but overall, I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought up until probably 75% of the way, I thought I was going to give it a 5-star. And I was absolutely loving it because it was so entertaining. It was like everything that I wanted in a young adult thriller. And some things, I mean, we'll get into it, but there was just some things that kind of fell short for me. And I also gave Sadie a low rating, her other, very popular book, for about the same reasons. And so this was a second chance for Courtney Summers for me, and it just kind of fell flat in the same way. So we'll get into why, but I up till like part 4, I was like 5-star read, but I know I was so disappointed.
I actually kind of liked the ending, so I'll definitely have to talk about that. But I just thought that the book was very consistent. I thought that was as strong as the end, and I was engaged the entire time. I was a little nervous when I first started reading it because I was so confused, but that's because I listened to the audiobook and I wasn't realizing that there were time jumps and character jumps. It didn't tell me that. So I was very apprehensive when I first started reading it, but overall, like, I just really enjoyed it. Not like I enjoyed it because it's not like a book you're supposed to enjoy, but I was just very captivated by the story, and I honestly thought it was a really realistic portrayal of what would happen in a situation like that. But I also thought that it was very dark. So I'm just a little bit confused as to what kind of reader would typically enjoy this book, which is why I don't know if I'm necessarily going to recommend it, but I definitely enjoyed the experience. Let me see if I can go through some comments as well. See if I can have anything. Hello,
Leo Beckeries is here saying, "Happy April Fools. You're not quite on the right day yet, Leo, but thanks for being here."
Hello to everyone. Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm really excited to hear what Amanda thinks of this book. I know she gave it 5
I know.
stars.
I was talking to her about it earlier. I was like, I'm ready for you to defend our positive opinions.
Oh my gosh, 3 stars, 2 stars, 3.75, 0.75, 5 stars, 2 stars, 4 stars. My main issues were just that I didn't find everything believable and logical. Yeah, that makes sense. 2.5. Yeah, hey Leo. Didn't finish it in time, but like a 4 star so far. Okay.
I read the entire thing today. Not even gonna lie.
Really?
Yeah, I'd read 60 pages before today.
Wow. I mean, I read it in just a couple sittings too. It was very easy to binge.
I agree. I didn't want to put it down. I was literally like doing things around my apartment. I was like, okay, I gotta plug in the audiobook because I like literally couldn't stop reading it. So you Sadie 5 stars, and this one let me down. Oh no. Yeah, it wasn't as good as Sadie in my opinion, but I still think that Courtney Summers is just very consistent. I think her writing is great. Sadie fell a little flat for Haley.
You can just tell that Courtney Summers is like a SSDGM. Like, she is a true crime fan. Like, between the two, with like Sadie and this book, I'm like, you can just tell that she loves listening to My Favorite Murder.
I listened to Sadie, and I think the audiobook saved it for me. I really like Sadie. I gave that one 5 stars. 3 stars. Want to try Sadie again as an audiobook because I've heard that a lot. Yeah, I've heard the audiobook's great for that.
It is. Yeah.
I agree with this. This was like my biggest problem with the formatting. It was, I'm dumb, but like I'm not that dumb. It shouldn't have been that difficult for me to understand what was going on. Okay, I read it physically and the time jumps weren't clear to me either.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Gosh, hello, Alicia. Agreed. I read it pretty fast in like 2 days. Definitely fell flat for me. Haley loves what's that? SSDGM vibes? I don't know what that stands for. Is that the podcast that you're talking about?
It's like their tagline. It stands for Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I'm here for the non-spoiler thoughts, and I'll come back and watch it. Read it. Yeah, we're almost out of the non-spoiler sections. I think we're just quickly chatting about it, going through the chat. And my biggest problem was that I found the project extremely predictable. I was never thrilled or surprised, very neutral. Counter argument. I don't think it needed to be anything but predictable. I think that predictability was its exact point, because it wasn't saying it was going to be some big, great mystery or anything. Like, it never promised that. And I think that it was just supposed to explain, you know, how people do get acceptable to cult. So I think it did exactly what it intended to do, which is why I wasn't upset that like there was no shocking reveals or anything like that.
I felt like there was honestly kind of a couple shocking reveals for me. It was nothing major, but like there were a couple things when I was like, oh my God, I did not see that coming. But I agree with what you said. I definitely don't think that that was the point, was to have some kind of mystery. So
yeah. Luna is asking about the April book.
I did just respond to that. We'll be discussing kind of our plans moving forward at the end of the live show. So.
Yeah. Amanda said, I think Courtney Summers knew exactly what she was doing at every single part of the story. The manipulation of B and then the slow were in her mind as she was being manipulated. Now, I didn't mind the time jumps. For me, the formatting actually aided the way the story made you feel it. Yeah, I agree. It was just confusing at first, but over time, I think that I definitely did appreciate how it was formatted, and I really liked the parallels at the very end. Yeah, and this is also valid. I think I just hyped it up in my head for too long, and it didn't live up to my expectations. Oh no, is my audio cutting out? Can y'all hear me, Jess and Katie?
I can hear you.
I mean, I can hear you fine. It looks like a little laggy, but I mean, it's not. I can understand you and everything.
Okay, I'm sorry if you guys can't hear something that I'm saying, let me know, and I'll try and do something about it. This book really reminded me of Long Bright River with the sister thing. I have not read that.
That's all my TBR. It's very different from that book, but I mean, the sister thing, yeah, I guess.
I agree. I think the ending actually was kind of unpredictable for me because usually YA doesn't take it the whole way like Courtney Summers ended up doing.
Yeah, true.
Agree. All right. Well, does anyone have any other non-spoiler thoughts that they want to share, or do y'all want to jump into?
You can just jump right in.
Okay. Sweet. So I guess we can talk about the pacing and the writing. Oh, first of all, everyone, spoiler warning. If you haven't read the book and you want to read it and not be spoiled, leave now. Come back later if you want. But we are going to be talking about spoilers now. So I guess the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the pacing of the book. Did you guys think it was appropriate? For me, the book had very consistent pacing, but I do wish we had a little bit more between the climax and the overall resolution of the story. That was another critique that I had as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think the pacing was good throughout. Like, I definitely was a page turner. It was easy to read in one sitting. Like, I just wanted to keep knowing what was happening. But I do think that there were kind of a few things that could have been fleshed out more. Like, I think parts where we jumped from one conclusion to the next a little too quickly. But other than that, I thought it was really good.
So like I said, I wanted to give this book 5 stars up until about part 3, and the ending gave me, and I'll try to explain this as best as I can. It gave me last season of Game of Thrones vibes, where I felt like the ending made sense. Like, I knew from the beginning we were going to have a main character that ends up falling for either the cult leader or start joining the cult the more she looked into it. I knew that's where this book was going. But the way that it was executed was so poor because it just happened so suddenly. And I was like, all of this made sense. She did all the right things by laying all the right groundwork, but then she just took it from A to Z way too quickly. And it just wasn't executed well, in my opinion, because as soon as, since we're talking about spoilers, as soon as she kissed Lev, I was like, wait, if this would have happened like maybe even 30 pages later, I think it would have been more believable. And then I just feel like the pacing was just off for the rest of the book. It just didn't do it for me. So I just felt like it made sense. It just wasn't executed well.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's kind of what I was meaning when I was saying that, like, the just jumped from point A to point B really quickly. Like, I think that Lo was such a susceptible character to the cult influences that it made sense that she ultimately ended up joining them. But yeah, the way she just kind of switched her mindset so quickly, or at least it seemed that way on page, was a little bit hard to get behind. I mean, it made sense to me, but I did think that that should have been written out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with both of y'all. I think it made sense, but I agree maybe 30 more pages would have really made it make even more sense. I thought it just kind of came out of left field, and also I was just questioning. I was like, girl, he's been with your sister, and like that doesn't not a flag for you? Like, besides the fact that he's a cult leader. So like I feel like even if I was in a situation where I was susceptible to things like that, I would have still had some wheels turning in my mind being like, oh, he was with my sister. Like, there's all these other things I know about that maybe I should consider.
Yeah.
Let me see what people in the comments are saying. Yeah, I feel like she changed her thinking too quickly. That makes sense. Feels like a couple people also think that as well. Lo starts to cry and tremble. The scene would end with Love's dramatic words. More layering of doubt was needed, or Lo thinking about his words later would have laid a better foundation for her change.
Yep, I agree.
Oh, the comments are saying.
See, and I kind of interpreted that scene as a trauma response because there was groundwork laid where she was seeing him in dreams. And so I just assumed, I would love to hear Haley's thought as, a therapist. I would love to know if that is something that if someone experiences like a high level of trauma like she did, if there's any kind of like sexual like desire for somebody that saved you or something like that. Like, obviously she was just really grateful because it was right when she realized that Lev saved her. And I wonder if that was just some sort of trauma response, because that was kind of the only way I could rationalize that scene in my head. I just thought it went too far by having like with her having sex with him so quickly. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that Amanda responded to that kind of how I viewed it as well. She was really desperate for having some piece of family, and she felt connected to him because of her sister. I'm just saying, like, people feed off so easily.
Yeah, I see that too, but I feel like almost maybe like her being so desperate to discredit the cult was a defense mechanism, in that she already kind of believed, and that was like the last thing she was holding on to. And when that started to crack, it just crumbled for her. And then she just grasped onto what was in front of her because she had nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like I said, I knew that that's where the story was going to go because cults are very sexually charged, especially with the leader. I knew that's where it was going to go, but I felt like going from to that instant was just way too quick. And that's what made it kind of take me out of the story. And it just is kind of, I understand like what Amanda's saying with she was being taken advantage on a low point. I just thought it was strange that she would jump to having sex with him so quickly. Like maybe I could see like, oh, I want to join the cult because she had just lost her job and she was like, I need somewhere to live. I have nobody. But at the same time, like going straight to sex is like, it seems so out of character.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah, that's what Laura's saying too. Yeah, I agree with that. I just don't know how it would have been I just don't know how else it could have been executed, I guess. Like, I feel like it was a quick reaction for her, and like she was just all of a sudden very vulnerable because she wasn't seeing how she was vulnerable this entire time by interacting with the cult, but then at the same time she was. So I don't know how to critique it because at the same time I don't know if I would change how it actually happened.
Yeah.
Did anyone have any other thoughts about the pacing or the writing style? I did want to jump into how I think it's ironic how the first time I feel like I've ever read a book with first and third person was The Shadows, and then we ended up reading Invisible Girl, and now we read The Project. All of them jump from first to third person, but I feel like this was the best executed version of that.
I agree.
Yeah, I think so too. It is funny. Maybe it's like a new thing that thriller authors are doing or something.
Yeah. I just thought it interesting because again, like the parallels between them and like at the very end, like you kind of understand like why you were getting Bee's perspective. Like I knew the whole time why we had her perspective was just we had an understanding of like how she felt susceptible to the cult. But it was just so interesting that we weren't actually in her head, but we were in Lowe's. So I guess why do you guys think that is? Or do you think Courtney Summers did that for a specific purpose?
It could have been to make us feel separate from B in the same way that Lowe felt separate from B.
Yeah.
And not really understanding exactly what she was thinking and why she was doing the things she was doing and being kind of frustrated by that. I definitely feel like that helped that feeling along.
I always interpret it as this is Lowe's story.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that our main focus is her. And so that's why we would be in her mind. I really enjoyed how intentional the flashbacks were because the more we progressed in the story, the more we were jumping back and forth. And I thought that was very well executed because the scenes that we were seeing were very small pieces of the story, but they were very intentional to what we were currently at in the present. And I really liked that we were flipping back and forth faster as the story was continuing. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, especially with all the parallels between their stories at the end and how they basically just like lived the same experience by the end was just really crazy. And I think that definitely highlighted that aspect, which I thought was cool.
Yeah. Agreed. And I don't know if you guys want to touch on the setting. I don't really have many thoughts on it, but I know we usually do talk about it. Did anyone want to share anything?
I don't know. I liked the upstate New York setting, but I don't think it really had anything to do with anything that much. But one thing I didn't love was like the mention of like politics and stuff in it. And it would have been fine, but it was just like a surface level mention. We didn't like go into anything about it. So I was like, why did you even do that? Because I feel like it just dated the book. Like
I was shocked. Like, and I know Courtney Summers obviously didn't know this was coming, but they mentioned Cuomo.
Yeah.
And Cuomo has recently had sexual misconduct allegations come out against him. And obviously this book was published before like a couple weeks ago, but I saw that name and I was like, oh, this is not going to age well. Because I'm pretty sure they shined him in a positive light. Like he was trying to take down this cult or expose this cult. And I was like, ooh, we're not doing that anymore. We're not going to. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's always like a weird thing when authors like mention pop culture things in their books, like it definitely can date the book, especially when it has to do with politics and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Haley predicted Bee's death. I didn't, but I also wasn't searching for any answers. Like, I just assumed she was alive, but that's just me being an idiot. But
Yeah.
I made sense that she was dead as well.
Yeah, see, I'm so conditioned to think like if you don't find a body, they're not dead.
Yeah.
So that's why
true.
I even think that she's not dead at the end of, well, no, I guess she is. They found the body, but up until they actually like dragged the lake, I was like, she's not dead. She's out hiding.
Yeah, I thought she made it out alive. I am dumb and hopeful and didn't want to consider she was actually dead. Me. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, she'll be back. Like, they're gonna have their happy ending, but I should have known. It's going
Yeah.
to do that. I thought there'd be a B and low
I
confrontation.
considered this as well. I kind of thought that they were hiding her somewhere,
Yeah.
but
I don't love real life references in fictional stories. Yeah, it depends, like what kind of it is for me. Like, if it's a contemporary whatever, but like a darker book like this, it kind of like takes me out of the story sometimes. Okay, cool. I don't really have anything to talk about the themes or the writing style or anything. If y'all do, just let me know. But we can move more into the themes of the book, since that's definitely like a key component of it. I think it's really interesting how Courtney Summers typically writes. I mean, the only book I've read by her by Project Sadie, but she likes to write about sisters and what it means to like have one. So, what did y'all think of the exploration of that theme in the project?
I definitely think it's interesting that she kind of like explores imperfect sister relationships. I feel like that's kind of like would be interesting to go into like the authorial intent and stuff for that, and like I wonder if Courtney Summers has like a weird relationship with her sister or something, because it definitely like neither of these sister relationships in Sadie or in the project are really like positive, amazing sister relationships. But I definitely do think it's interesting that the theme is present in both of the books. I don't really have any thoughts further than that, but
one thing that and this is only because this is my own personal experience, but one little small detail that she added in the prologue was the age difference between the two sisters. I think more commonly, siblings are born closer together, and I have one sister and she is 8 years younger than me, and she mentioned how the daughter was upset whenever the parents were like, oh, we're going to have a sister or whatever. And that was my experience. Like, being an 8-year-old kid, I was old enough to like understand what that meant, and like how I felt like it was going to like ruin my life, And I thought that was really interesting because it does add a layer of disconnect between the sisters, because I'm a millennial, my sister's a Gen Z, and we really didn't have anything in common most of our lives until we became adults. And so it's like, because, we're in such different parts of our lives. When I was in high school, she was in elementary school. And I feel like that added a layer of like imperfection to the relationship that I feel like was done really well. So I thought that was a really cool thing, because you don't see that a lot in sisterhood type stories. They're usually like really close and tight knit, but we didn't get that from the get-go.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting how B decided to leave Lo when she was in the hospital. It was like, this is when your sister's gonna need you the most. Like, you guys both just lost your parents. Like, I just couldn't imagine that situation, and like it's interesting that was B's response.
Yeah, that's one part of the book that I struggled to believe. Like, I just was kind of confused, because I know that at that point she was starting to like be in the cult and be surrounded by it, but I don't think she was like completely in it yet. And so it's just strange to me. I wasn't convinced totally that her sister being hurt and that being hard for her and out of her control was enough for her to leave her sister. So I don't know. I wasn't sure if I was convinced by that.
It is so well done, imperfect. Like, one has abandoned you, but you still have that bond no matter what. Yeah, I thought that was a really powerful theme at the end there. GSK mom adopted a cat when I was born, so I wouldn't get mad. Oh my gosh. I find it extremely relatable coming from a hard past with my sister. Also, the way Lo really just made a lot of assumptions about B, and same with Lo. Yeah. I wish we could have gotten the point of view switched almost. Like, I would have rather been in B's head. I thought B was sometimes more likable than Lo. That's interesting, because if it was from B's perspective, we would have gotten a totally different story, since it was all about Lo investigating B's disappearance and why she, like, well, not, I guess not really her disappearance, but her involvement with the cult. So I feel like, I mean, I was glad to be in Lo's head, because I thought that
I didn't think that Lo was an unlikable character.
Would you say you cut out?
Sorry. I don't think that Lo was really like an unlikable character. Like, I've seen quite a few people say that, but I didn't dislike her at all. Like, I thought she was a very interesting character, and I understood where she was coming from most of the time, and kind of just felt bad for her. But
I think where that probably is coming from is the fact that I saw a really interesting interview with R.F. Kuang, and how people who are sitting at home that have a normal life, and you know, they're in a comfortable position, can sit there and say that's a dumb decision, to a character that's in a completely different position than them. And I think it's really interesting to look at it from a perspective of someone who just quit their job because they saw something very traumatic, and they literally have no one in their life. And so looking at it from that perspective, it's like, okay, maybe the decisions do make a little bit more sense, because she's had so much trauma. She literally has no one. And it's really easy for us to say, oh, she made stupid decisions, because we're sitting at home, like, you know, in a very comfortable position reading a book, you know? So
yeah.
I think maybe that's why she's seen as so unlikable, because she has very unpopular reactions to things. But that was just my take on it.
Yeah, and I guess that's true, but I feel like she was like textbook case of somebody that would be drawn into a cult. So I like could not be mad at her for that decision, because she was like, she checked all the boxes for them recruiting her. Like,
Yep.
Hi, Nitty. You're still here. Yeah, that's so interesting that Lo is unlikable for a lot of people. I just thought she was.
Yeah, I thought B was a lot more unlikable. B was a mess.
Yeah, I agree. Who said that down below? Where? Oh, yeah, Amanda said she actually hated B so much the first half. I agree. I was mad at B. I was like, why'd you abandon your sister? Like, I don't have any of your motivations. Like, I did not like reading her chapters until they started to become more interconnected. I didn't really understand any motivations in this book. B leaving Lo getting in a relationship with Lev, Lo joining the project. It all just felt too convenient and didn't make sense. That's fair. Yeah, I can see how it'd be convenient. So aggressive as a 19, no experience as a Mexican.
Yeah. Yep.
I felt like that was realistic, though. Like, I was mad at the world when I was 19 too, like, and wanted somebody to think I was special. But
I thought she was older when I was reading the book. Like, I assumed she was like 21, 22 at first.
Yeah.
And so I was so surprised when I learned that she was only 19. I didn't dislike her, but I don't think we would be friends.
I mean, fair.
I agree. Irritating, and I think that's 80% of the reason why I rated it so low. So many points. Lo was just a teenager who had nothing and was desperate to have something. I agree. Period. B was a selfish one. She literally abandoned needed her most.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it was just the pacing, the timing, how it all happened that didn't make it believable for me. That's fair. I can't even. Come here. Yeah.
Everyone say hi.
Hi.
He doesn't like being picked up.
Hi.
I saw a TikTok that said cats feel disrespected when you pick them up.
Makes sense.
I've seen the same with dogs, that like it increases their heart rate or something and they get stressed.
Oh.
But I pick my dog up all the time.
He's having many panic attacks.
He's fine.
Poor Elvis.
Yeah, Lo did not heal from her accident mentally because B left her too, and that's on B. I mean, B had her own healing to do as well, but like, that was messed up, man, that you just left your sister like that.
I don't feel like she had anyone.
Yeah.
I think it was a lot of, she literally didn't have anybody to unload the trauma on. She just kind of had to pick her stuff up and go on. And it's like, when you look at how hard it is to find help, like any kind of medical help in this country, it's like, it makes sense that like she wouldn't go to therapy, you know? And it's like, our trauma is we're hardwired to think that we're okay. And I mean, it makes sense if she didn't have anybody around her to tell her, like, you are not okay. Like, you went through something so traumatic and you're trying to protect yourself. And I think it makes a lot of sense why she acted the way she did.
Yeah. I wish Arthur was a more prominent character. When Lois was going to a meeting he hosted, it would have been more interesting if she had interacted with him more. Yeah, he was just
too, like, I didn't understand why she didn't talk to him and tell him her connection to it.
Hello. Yeah, he was just kind of on the back burner. I didn't really think about him much as I was reading, and except for the very beginning. Did y'all want to talk any more about just the theme of being susceptible to a cult? I mean, we talked about it a lot, so I don't know how much more I could really add to it, but I didn't know if you guys had any more comments on it.
Not really. I mean, I think I pretty much said what I had to say about it.
I think cults are super interesting. And I thought Courtney Summers did a really good job with researching cults and making just a very compelling story. I was really impressed with that aspect of this book.
Yeah, I agree.
Me too.
Something that I wanted to talk about was the theme of motherhood. I just thought it was super interesting how Lev prevented Emmy from knowing that B was her mother. So I definitely wanted to talk about that and what you all thought.
It just made me so angry.
Yeah.
I think that was like a good way to show just how like in control Lev truly was of the cult and all its members. Like, not even Foster, who was kind of doubting and who really loved B, thought that anything but what Lev told him could be the truth. And it's just like, makes me sick.
Yeah.
I love super evil antagonists. And it's one of the reasons why I love the Scythe series so much, because I love when people have like so much evil in them that it's shocking, like what they do. And I thought I loved that part of the book. Like, obviously it was a terrible thing, but it really showed how corrupt and evil Lev was, that he would do that to a human being. It was a great character development point.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it really just showed, like, because Lev is kind of, you're seeing Lev through Lo's eyes. So you're seeing some of the positive qualities of him as well. So it definitely kind of shows you how evil and manipulative he is. Because, like, you know that when you're reading the book, but you also see him through Lo's eyes. So it was definitely a really great realization point, not only Lo, but also for the reader. This cracks me up. I'm wondering that too, because I had a great like experience reading it, but I also can totally understand why someone can like hate it. Yeah, that hurt me, be having to grow up on the sideline while Emmy grew up.
Yeah.
Thought it was a very interesting choice that Courtney Summers didn't make the project a real cult in the eyes of the public until the abuse came out. Definitely a cult for that. Yep.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't need the abuse to be a cult. And I feel like a lot of times groups like this aren't taken seriously until something like this happens. But they're just, I don't know. It's not a matter of like being open-minded. It's a matter of these communities destroy people's lives. I don't know.
Yeah. Get that Haiti didn't let Emmy know who her mom was. I liked that Emmy was part of what started to break out of the Yeah.
Yeah.
Emmy is now having instability too, and it's just not fair. I didn't even think about that, but you're so right. Wow.
I thought it was interesting that whenever she was talking to, was it Rob and the priest, and they were saying that they were like, there's no way that she would leave. Like, they knew how much she cared for Emmy. And they were like, she didn't just leave Emmy. Like, something bad really happened. And I really liked that.
Yeah, that really just like made my stomach drop. I was like, oh my God. And two, I thought it was really interesting how they revealed about the phone calls being like the recording of Bee's testimonials and just the project fucking with her. Like, that was just insane.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if y'all had predicted who was on the phone. Like, I thought it was Bee the entire time. Like, I really thought she was alive.
Yeah, I didn't know who it was, but I kind of thought it was Bee. After Lo thought it was Bee, I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. But then when I realized what it actually was, and that it was just the project, like, keeping tabs on her and keeping her scared, like, yeah.
Thought it was Bee too. Did you have any predictions, Katie?
I didn't think too much about that when I was reading it. I just kind of assumed it was Bee because she spoke and then Lo heard her voice and said it was Bee. So I didn't really think that much about that point. So you would assume that, like, maybe she does have a generic voice, but like I could definitely tell if my sister was on the phone or not, you know.
Well, it was a recording of her voice.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Yeah, so it was her, just not alive.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't pick up on that.
And this is what I agree with this comment and how a lot of the person told me that was one of the aspects of the book that gave me the most anxiety and like unease, because like, no, there wasn't any real shocking moment. Like, there was little things that added up in this book, but it was just like the constant feeling of uneasiness that like really contributed to my experience of this book. Yeah, the manipulation on the phone call. What did you think about Foster and how Foster was totally cool with what was happening with Bee and Emmy? I think Foster was also, you know, susceptible to the cult. I mean, he couldn't really do differently than Bee did. He just kind of had to watch him on the sideline, and in his mind, he was doing the best that he could by interacting with Emmy. I don't think he could have did anything differently. I can't judge him for it, you know?
Well, they legitimately thought that they were being punished for their sins. Like, they thought that they deserved that punishment. And that's what's so messed up about it, is it was internalized for them as well, that this was the right thing to do. And that just goes to show how, like, indoctrined they were into this way of thinking.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What is the next month's book club pick? I believe we're going to talk about that at the end, but if you want update information, the Discord and the Instagram are both linked in the description. I don't think Emmy should be in foster care post-project.
I feel like he should have gone through an extreme debriefing therapy and then could have had her, but yeah.
Because you could definitely, like, you could see how, like, maybe he would be susceptible to fall into another cult after this, because it's kind of like what he knows. And so, yeah, he definitely should be, like, kept on tabs with Child Protective Services for sure.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully, like, Lo's kind of doing that, and he has Lo to ground him, but yeah.
And this is interesting, too, how it shows regardless of education level.
Well, there was some studies done on QAnon when, you know, the storming of the Capitol happened, that it was more people that were like middle class, like middle upper class people that were falling for QAnon. And so there's, you know, whenever you're at a certain point in your life where you feel like you're very intelligent, you're very smart, you can be even more susceptible to this kind of stuff, because you feel like you start believing like all these people are drinking the Kool-Aid and, you know, I'm smarter than everybody. And so I really liked that Foster was a medically trained doctor and was a very smart individual, and he still believed in all this stuff.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of interesting too how they talked about how if they had members with education, they would use that education, but then they just reduced Foster to a bodyguard. Like, I mean, he wasn't going around doctoring people. I thought that was kind of interesting too. But I feel like that, like, even in that Waco documentary on Netflix, a lot of the people in that group were also very highly educated.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a mistake to just assume only ignorant people can be susceptible to a cult.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree. I thought this would be an interesting discussion question as well. It's kind of a topic change, but I want to talk about being classified as YA. Do you agree with that? Do you think that the book was limited by that? What are your thoughts?
It was kind of weird. This classifying. I don't know if it was just like a marketing tactic. They thought it would sell better.
Yeah.
But I personally, I mean, it read as YA, the fact that it was fast paced and it wasn't super like, I don't know, the writing style was YA-ish, but the themes that it explored and the plot and the way it didn't shy away from like sexual content or like torture didn't feel very YA to me. This is very much not like a YA book. So, and people are throwing around new adult in the comments, and I guess so. I feel like new adult is like a romance term though. Like I don't feel like regular books are new adult. I feel like that's smut for college kids. Like I don't know.
I wish that, not that there's necessarily a stigma about new adult being a genre, but I wish that new adult was more of a genre, because that would be like pretty much what I exclusively read, because I'm always wanting books at college and I want books with like darker themes that aren't necessarily as complex as adult. So I think that this book borderline was new adult, but it still read like YA. I agree with you, Jess. It was like really easy to get through. So I would have just liked it to go a little bit further. I would have liked it to be a little bit more descriptive and go into more detail, because it's not that it shied away from it, but I feel like if it wasn't marketed as young adult, it could have been even better. It could have gone into those themes more. So I thought it was very limited by the fact that it was categorized as YA. But I also don't see a problem with having darker themes in YA. I just think that like it could have just been better if it was more categorized to an older audience.
Yeah, my guess is probably because Courtney Summers has been a YA author, and so it's probably difficult to then break into the adult category and then be taken seriously. And they probably just categorized it based off the writing style, because if she were to categorize this as adult and then people were to read it and they'd be like, this is totally a YA novel, like the person's young or 19 and the writing style is definitely in the YA category. So I wonder if she it was just easier to advertise it and, you know, get the criticism one way or another than it is for it to be adult and then read like a YA.
Yeah. And I this Haley. It had dark themes. It could have been explored and been darker.
Yeah.
I agree. It's an age target, not necessarily content.
Yeah, I agree with this. Like, I definitely thought it was dark. Like, I mean, I've never read a YA book like this before. There's never been a YA book that goes this dark. I honestly think it probably could have been marketed as adult and nobody would have batted an eye. Personally, but and I don't really know where it could have gone darker. I mean, or where it could have gone further. I don't know. I thought it was very chilling and unsettling, and I didn't really need more from it in that regard, personally.
Yeah, this is what I guess I meant, is what Haley just said. It was graphic, but it did discuss a lot of things.
Graphic, but I don't need that personally.
Yeah, I don't need that either.
See, I'm always looking for books like this because I'm very squeamish when it comes to movies, and part of me still craves like getting scared and having like a heebie-jeebie creepy feeling, but I'm always looking for books that are going to freak me out. And because I've never found a book that I've like legitimately like lost sleep over, because I don't know, I just don't feel as connected to this when I'm watching a movie. So I really liked all the dark parts. Like I thought it was just like perfectly creepy. It hit all the like super gross parts just exactly what I wanted from this book. So I wasn't necessarily expecting it to go that dark, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Cool. Do we want to move into characters? I know we've kind of discussed some of them, but I do want to talk specifically about Lev. I don't feel like we've touched on him very much. I guess, what did you think of him and his different relationships with B and with Lo?
I have a question first. How old was he?
I don't know, actually.
Did we ever get like?
I think he was born in 1980. Isn't that what they said?
Okay.
So he was probably like 30.
Tell if that's when he was raised or that's when he was born, because he said something like it was in 1981 or something like that, and I couldn't really peg when he was, how old he was.
I think like when she was interviewing him,
Okay.
I think she was like, let's go back to 1980 where it all started. I took that as that's when he was born. So yeah, that would make him 38 in 2018.
Because his character to me felt very old. Like, I don't know if it was the way he talked or the fact that he was a cult leader, but in my head, I pictured him being like 60 years old. And I was like, well, he was able to father a child, so maybe he wasn't that old, but I don't know. To me, there was some disconnect with his age, and maybe it was just because of the cult leader thing, but
I kind of envisioned him as younger. Like, I envisioned him as like 28, 30, but I mean, I didn't really have an age to go with. I didn't really that detail, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Kayla imagined him being 32.
I think we imagined him like in his 30s, like the age that he was, but
Well, do we have any thoughts on Lev, or not really?
I mean, I definitely thought he was a good, accurate character as far as cult leaders go. Like, he just, I don't know, in the way that he could read, he knew exactly what people needed him to say.
Yep.
Did I go out again? We're having a windstorm.
Cut out a little bit.
But just the way he could, like, draw people in and say exactly what they needed to hear so that they believed him and fell into it, and then just how completely he could brainwash everyone. It was crazy.
What do you think his zodiac sign was? I think he's probably a Gemini.
I don't know anything about the zodiac.
Well, most serial killers are mutable signs, so like Sagittarius, Virgos, Geminis, and Pisces. I feel like he was a Gemini. He was quick.
Yeah. Pisces is the number one.
Maybe a Virgo.
I do not claim him as a Virgo. I also wanted more info on the police being involved in the cult, because it was offhandedly mentioned that they were in Lev's pocket. Yeah, that would have been interesting to
They're
know.
always up on some bullshit, the police.
Yeah, we don't like them. Favorite Lev?
Lev was my favorite. He was the only one that felt real to me. He was interesting for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he was like my favorite, but I definitely think he was one of the most well-developed characters. I agree with that.
Well, do you want to talk about any characters in particular? We kind of talked about them throughout this conversation. I feel like we've hit on Lo and B and Foster, who are the only characters that I really wanted to talk about. But if y'all have anything you want to add.
I don't think so. I think it was interesting when people were talking earlier about Jeremy. Like, I kind of wish we had gotten some kind of resolution into what happened there. But I don't have anything to say other than that.
No. Anything you have, Katie?
No, I think we hit all my main points.
Okay, sweet. I guess we can just briefly touch on the ending. If anyone wants to talk about that, let us know what you thought of it in the chat, and then we can just wrap it up. So what did y'all think about the ending? So
I personally thought that the epilogue, like the part 4, was unnecessary, or the part 5, whatever it was. I think it would have been so much stronger and would have fit the book way more if it had just ended with Lo going into the water and us not knowing what had happened. Like, I think that would have been so much stronger and more in line with what the book was doing.
Yeah.
But then we got this weird epilogue where it's like, I mean, I'm glad that they got a semi-happy ending, but I feel like I didn't need that. And I felt like it would have been stronger if Lo had gone into the water and then we got that last flashback of B seeing Lo on the street and being like, we'll see each other again.
Yep.
I think that would have been so much stronger than
I wonder if that's Courtney Summers like overcorrecting for Sadie. Like she had such an such a ambiguous ending to Sadie that, and she did get criticized for it quite a bit. Like people that didn't like it was because of that. And I wonder if she was like, okay, we got to give some conclusion.
Yeah, could have been.
Went a little too far.
I agree that it would have fit the tone of the book better to not have the epilogue, but personally, I like having my questions answered.
Yeah.
Usually, so like I didn't mind it, but I do agree with Stacey and Laura's comment here. I wanted to know how Lo managed to kill them, because that
especially because Foster implied that it was God, which I was like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
Like, tell me how.
It's totally
explain the physics to me, please.
What was that? Our first book club pick?
Simone St. James.
The Simone St. James one, where it was like a ghost that killed him at the end, and it was like, what? Oh, spoilers if you've. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel like it just would have been powerful too to know like how Lo, like I feel like that would have been such a girl power moment that like we really weren't given. Yeah, I was confused too. I had to reread that part because I just didn't know what happened.
Yeah, it was like, how would she overpower him? Like,
yeah,
just didn't make a lot of sense.
Especially when she was already like drowning.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's just probably lazy writing. Like, she probably just didn't want to come up with an explanation, and so she was like, "You're not getting one."
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything else to add. Does anyone in the chat or Jess or Katie, do you have anything that you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
I think we pretty much covered everything for me.
I did like this book. Did anyone's ratings change after talking about it?
No, I feel
like
I can see it's flawed, but like I personally enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely stick by my 3.5. The things that I didn't like are definitely big pet peeves of mine. Like when you do kind of have like scapegoat endings, I'm just kind of like, you could have worked a little harder on mapping this out. And so
yeah,
I stick by my rating.
Yeah, and if we didn't have that epilogue, we wouldn't have to have this issue because we wouldn't know what happened.
Yeah.
Laura raised her rating.
Ooh.
And I gave it a 5 still. Yeah, that's interesting that you're going to raise your rating, Laura. Talk about it validated confusion. It makes me almost want to lower my rating. Also,
Haley, you just have a vendetta against YA thrillers. You just don't want to like them.
That's fair. I'm the same way with British thrillers, so.
All right. Still a 2.
Well, we didn't change very many people's minds.
That's okay. You're allowed to give it whatever rating you want it. So if you had 3 stars, lowering mine to a 2.
Oh my god. Sarah.
Okay. Well, do y'all want to talk about next month and what y'all have planned?
So I can honestly say we don't know what's going to happen from here on out. So I have been taking a hiatus from booktube. Not that I'm not reading. I just haven't really been enjoying YouTube and creating content. And so we don't really know. We were talking about taking a couple months off to just kind of like revamp everything, get a new structure, because I don't know if you want to say, Mare.
I mean, I made an announcement in the Discord.
Yeah.
But this was my last meeting with the book club.
So because of that, we might see if we can reach out and make, have another host. We just haven't really discussed it yet. So definitely join the Discord because we will be making any announcements there and on Instagram. So as soon as we know, you'll know. So we just have kind of been taking a step back especially since Mare has decided to, you know, do her own thing. So we will definitely let you know once we come to a decision.
But probably no book for April. But
Probably.
we'll let you know.
Alrighty. Well, that will be the end of the discussion today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This was a really great discussion, I think, and great getting to everyone's thoughts on the book. And again, there will be the Discord, Instagram, and everyone's links in the description, so definitely go check those out. And yeah, see y'all later. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
Bye.